For too many years, families of children with devastating illnesses have felt helpless as they watch their child suffer. Today, they're taking matters into their own hands and finally finding relief treating their child with cannabis. This is one family's story.
Hi, thanks for tuning in to another episode of
Love and Cannabis.
I am Nina.
I'm Osiris.
And we are the proud parents of Aiden. So, last episode, we said we were going to talk about sex and cannabis.
Yeah.
So, Osiris, what is up with you guys in sex and in terms of after a baby is born?
Well, since you put it that way, I mean, sex in general?
No, let's just kind of narrow it down to, that after baby, postpartum phase.
Okay, so that's a little complicated, but not, generally guys are always aroused. You think about for the 8-9 months, you're pretty much almost hands off. Only once in a while, at the time you'd have an interest, you'd want to, but then after that, when baby's born, it's like, and I recall during the time that you were breastfeeding, Aiden, you were literally hands off. It's like milk is for baby. You're not getting anything in your coffee. You're not getting anything to take to go. It's all about your body, your mind, your spirit was all about Aiden and making sure he was fine. And that was for what, 2 years? 2.5 years?
Yeah, so I'm one of those mothers that really breastfed for a long time. I did it for 2.5 years. So for those 2.5 years,
torture.
It was rough. Sex life was rough because I really had a very low sex drive and really wasn't interested, in that intimacy. So it was rough. That did cause a rift in our relationship. But so I wanted to know why. So I went and did some research in terms of why do women feel that way? Because, I talking to my girlfriends, I wasn't the only one. A lot of girls will say, yeah, I do not want to be touched. Ugh. Especially, they just still have no desire. And I want to know why. And just quickly summarizing, I read an article. I said, basically, our estrogen levels are a little higher and our testosterone levels really, really drop. And that is what kind of gets the libido going, the testosterone. So that definitely plays a factor into that. Some mothers would say that they're just too tired. That was me. I thought that was it. Like I was just exhausted. When you breastfeed a baby, sometimes the baby wants to nurse every 2 hours, every hour sometimes. So, and sometimes when they're having a growth spurt, it's like you literally feel like you're breastfeeding all day. You're just done. And I was done. Like sex was the last thing that I was thinking about. And I really wasn't thinking about our relationship at all. It was like, I'm the mommy cub, but he's the baby cub. And my goal and only desire is to make sure that my cub is okay and fed.
And that was very apparent when I'd come home. It was interesting to watch. So, I remember one experience where I was home, because at the time we were really getting into the nursing. I was a stay-at-home dad. I was taking care of Aiden. You've already left milk for Aiden. And then you came home from work. You're like, okay, I'm full. Where is he? I'm like, he's just laying down. I got to get this milk out. He has to get it. And I'm standing there like, okay, hand over Aiden to you. You take off your top. You take him and just nurse. And I sit there like, I wish that was me. I'm like, I can use some milk. I'm like, it's been a while. Can I touch him? It's like, nope, strictly for Junior. I'm like, great. And that went on for 2 years, 2.5, I think. He did nurse. And the funny thing is that it was sad to see, but I'm happy at the same time because I know my son was being, taken care of. You're nursing, you're using your body for this purpose and this purpose only. And for the fact that I had to put and suppress all my desires aside and allow this natural act to happen. So I supported it, wholeheartedly supported it. But when he started having the seizures and, you know, you're done with your breastfeeding and now he's eating now and all these things are changed. Again, your whole focus and body now is about him. So again, my feelings and my needs are, okay, now put aside. But that is understandable because of the fact that now Aiden's going through something else. And we have to be all hands on deck.
Yeah, so basically I felt like I was hit with a double whammy. So I was going through, you know, all the things that new moms go through. And then when you start to normalize when the child is around 2 or 3, where you feel, okay, all right, now I stopped nursing. I'm trying to get my body back and my breasts are maybe coming back. Because, you know, I don't know, women, after you breast for so long, your breasts basically look like flapjacks or something.
I'll flip them.
So, you know, things were starting to normalize for me. And then, bam, you know, here we go with the seizures. So then at that point, I was depressed. So that caused a low sex drive as well.
Yeah. There was a lot of suppressing going on and the focus. And I remember the conversation we had one time. You're like, you know what? I can't think about any intimacy or even your needs right now because of the fact that Aiden's going through something. So I'm going to be honest. I'm going to put all my energies and thoughts into helping Aiden. And you apologize. He's like, look, I'm sorry for what may or may not happen, whatever you decide. But I can't think about you and your needs as I'm thinking about Aiden. And I'm like, okay. All right, it's my son, my family. I have to make the sacrifices. I have to figure out, you know, how to get around that and just suppress my own natural desires, which is as a man, you know, we're made out of testosterone. Testosterone is who we are and what we push. And so, and that's part of it because that makes us a man, but, you know, it's not the whole picture. But also I'm a man, I'm a dad, a husband, and, you know, a supporter and a provider. So it's like those things that make you who you are is now a part has to be suppressed in order to achieve the ultimate goal. But as women may know, and as guys know, it's like, hey, there's only so much suppressing that needs to go on our end. But that came up with a decision where like, okay, do I suppress or do I go outside the relationship to get my needs met? And for the most part, the thoughts run through your mind. I'm going to be honest and say, yes, thoughts have run through my mind. Meeting women here, going to events, but at the same time, it never came fruition because there was things that come in mind like, okay, you do this, then what? Then, you know, it's like A, B, C, and D issues. And it's like, you know what? It's not even worth it. And at the same time, you know, you still love your family. You just don't want to add any other burden that's already going on that you have to deal with. So that was one of the things that just kept me grounded and saying, you know what? It's not her fault. I can't blame her. It's not like as if we have this massive issue that's hanging over us. It's like, this is about our child. We have to be selfish sometimes and just make some sacrifices and just say, look, I'm going to hold off and just really work my family and my wife and supporting her and supporting my family. Because, you know, this is my son. It's not someone else's family that I got to support, especially emotionally, mentally, and physically. So,
yeah. So as a mom, for mothers, like that connection is very, very strong. So if he's not okay, typically I'm not okay. So I'm not going to feel a need, even really for fun. You ask some of my friends and family, like when Aiden was really going through the real rough patch, when they were really trying to figure out what worked for him to help his seizures, I ended up losing all my maternity leave weight plus another 20 pounds. So
what were you talking about? Like what, 30 pounds?
So I gained maybe 25 pounds from maternity leave, and then I lost another like 20 pounds.
So when you were pregnant, when you were pregnant, like 9 months pregnant, you were about 140, 130, 140?
I don't know. Probably more than that. I don't know. I don't know the numbers.
I think it was around that. Because I remember you were, I'm just saying, because I remember, because you were concerned that, hey, I'm getting too big. But I'm like, hey, you got to eat. You got a baby inside. You got to eat. So I think it was around 135, 140. It was around that range.
That's probably what I started off with.
Yeah, because
and then I probably went into the 150s probably when I was pregnant.
Really? Because I think you ended up at around 120. You were actually way below. So yeah, that's about right. 150, and then you end up 120 at the end of it all.
Even lower than that. Yeah, in the teens. So yeah, so I ended up losing because I was just depressed. So I'm not thinking about sex at all. Like I'm not thinking of anything pleasurable. Anything that had any pleasure. Basically, I didn't go out with friends. We went through a period where we isolated ourselves from friends and family. So, having fun wasn't
It wasn't
in
on
our
our list.
vocabulary.
Not really. We tried to make the best of what we had at the time, even with each other. I mean, how many fights did we have? How many times did we think we were going to break up during the 4 years going through this? How many times?
Probably a lot.
Probably a lot.
And I think a lot of probably them now knowing now that, men get grumpy and irritable when they're
Hey,
not
you're saying men. You're talking about me in general. Don't bring a man in here.
you.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Be specific.
That you get kind of grumpy, that probably caused a lot of friction.
Yeah, well, it did. I mean, I'm kind of like frustrated. I don't know where to turn. I can't or don't want to go outside our relationship. So I have you. And so it's like window shopping. You have no money.
Yeah, you feel bad.
You do, but it's like...
Not that bad.
Yeah, right? Exactly. It's not like, hey, I could give you a hand, but I'm not going to. So it's like, yeah, figure it out. Take a cold shower. And it's like, there was some times where you try to figure out, like, I try to figure out, well, is it personal? Is it me? Does she find me attractive anymore? Does she, is it over between us? Is that what we thought it was? Is not there? Did we lie to each other? It's like, I don't even know what to think anymore. So I start to develop these ideas in my mind. I know you were probably doing the same, because after a while, it just starts to wear on you, because this is like day in and day out. You come home from work and it's like, you barely kiss, we barely hug. And it was like one of those things. It's like, okay, how was his day? It was like only about him. And I understand that. So it's like we forgot about each other. Yeah. We suppressed who we were to each other and just focused like just mom and dad. That was all we were.
And what is nice, recently you disclosed that to me, that you thought maybe I wasn't attracted to you.
Yeah. I'm a good-looking guy.
And I was like, oh, man. I was like, well, that sucks that he felt that way. And that wasn't the case. It wasn't that I wanted to be with another man. I'm looking at other men. It was just like, I was not interested. I just was too stressed out. And I didn't know you were feeling that way. And I was like, wow, I was actually really happy that you said that to me.
Really?
Yeah, because I was like, oh, shoot, I didn't know. And I didn't know that. And how could you go around thinking that, oh, your wife doesn't want you anymore? That's a lot to carry around.
It is.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, I know, right? It was a surprise. But I think for the most part, disappointed in the fact that we really couldn't communicate with each other without having those emotions or those ideas that built up in our mind we never really expressed to each other.
No.
And I didn't understand that, like, why couldn't we express what we feel and feel it was safe enough to do so? Because without us having this animosity at each other, or just like this wall that's like, it's my way or it's my thoughts, or, it's like, why aren't you respecting my feelings or my wishes? Because, I mean, we've gone through back and forth with that. It's like, this is what I want to do. Well, I don't like that idea. But it's like, well, where do we find that happy median then? Because I know that, people have told me about marriage, because it's for the first marriage for the both of us. It's not like we've been married before and gone through this experience. The first time parents as well. So yes. A lot of this is new and we're learning. And at the same time, we can't really go outside our relationship and say, hey, guys, what do you guys do? Because everybody's different.
Yes.
Everybody's situations are different.
Everybody's situations are different.
So there's only so much.
So, yeah, we didn't really have a married couple that also had a child with epilepsy.
Yeah.
So we didn't have that community to turn to. So we did feel basically
on our own. We were on our own, basically in our own mind.
Yeah.
We were on our own until we started really doing research and finding other families that were also going through what we were going through. But I don't think sex was one of those conversations, or, sex and cannabis was even a discussion. I think that's something that we did on our own. We kind of like experienced it, and now we're sharing with other people what we did and what we went through.
Yeah, and I think I wanted this episode because I have friends also who have children with special needs, and they also, discuss some, hardships that they're going into in their marriage. So we're not alone here. And sometimes sometimes you think you're alone, like it's us against the world. No one else knows what we're going through. Yeah. It's just us. But come to find out, that's not the case.
Well, true, but I don't know how many families are going through. To a certain extent, because Aiden was still going through his seizure and still continues to go through his seizures at night, which concerns us. that we made the decision, you know what? He's got to sleep with us. He's been sleeping with us for the past, he's 6 now, 6 years.
Yes, he still sleeps with us.
He sleeps with us, but then also because you've been lacking sleep, that you've had to sleep either in the living room because you can't sleep with him.
So that was another point. So if a child with epilepsy, then a lot of times their seizures are at night or in the early morning. So we sleep with Aiden because we don't want him to have one when we are not there present.
Yeah, exactly. To see if
to see what's going on, to make sure he's on his side, to make sure he's breathing. So that is a sex killer too.
That's a sex killer because both of us are not sleeping. I remember the time where no one was sleeping in the house. Mm-hmm. He was having seizures in the middle of the night. We're waking up. We had to create a protocol. Like if he has a grandma in the middle of the night, like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, this is what we need to do. Get an ice pack, put in the base of his neck. Who's going to get up and get it? Who's going to keep an eye on him? Yeah. So no one was really sleeping, especially when both of us had to be up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning to get ready for work. But there was times that he gets up at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock. I remember times he was getting up at 5 every morning on the dot. Yeah. That was absurd, no matter what time he went to bed.
So yes, the sleep was a huge issue because if you're tired, then you're not going to have any real energy.
Oh, no, for energy for anything. There was times where I didn't want to even have sex. I'm like, look, I can't even think about it. I'm so exhausted.
You're so exhausted because we weren't sleeping. And then sometimes I wouldn't even sleep in the same bed with them because I'm a light sleeper. So I was sleeping on the couch. We're in that 1 bedroom or 1.5 bedroom, Harlem apartment. So that became another factor.
Yeah, but you were on the couch. But think about it, you were on the couch for about, what, 1.5, 2 years?
Yeah. On the couch for a while.
So that so that kind of disrupted our intimacy, us being even close. And even if we were in a bed together, Aiden's between us.
Yeah.
So we never really have, like when we first got married, we were engaged and we were living together, the hugs, the holding each other, the kissing, all that. That kind of like shut down for it's been like 4 years really, yeah. 4 to 6 years actually, because you think about 4 years because when he started developing the seizures and everything. So you figure, it's been about 4.5 years.
Yeah, pray that we get like a 2-3 bedroom.
Yeah, right. But even then,
someone's gonna have to sleep with him.
Yeah, to keep an eye on the seizures.
Yeah,
so
until
it's gonna be a while.
It might be a while, or maybe not.
Hopefully not. I mean, not to say that the CBD oil that he's been using, the cannabis oil, hasn't been helping. It has greatly. I mean, you're talking about a kid who's been having 200 a day.
Yeah, so we're about 90%. So that doesn't mean he's seizure free, but 90% of the seizures that he was having is gone.
Yeah, so most of the experience coming, they're sporadic throughout the day, maybe 1 or 2 or maybe 4. If if he's constipated, if he's overheated, certain elements will trigger his seizures, and that which we started noticing as well, and we document. But for our relationship itself, it's a reboot in a way because of how far we've come and to where we are now, in the sense that the intimacy's like only been on hold until further notice. It's like, so what keeps us grounded? Now we're learning communication. And thankfully, what created communication was the fact that we started using cannabis so we can have a conversation.
Mellow us out.
Yeah, like you said, take the edge off.
Yeah. I think we should be pretty proud of ourselves.
Why?
For actually sticking through this and staying together. Shout out to us.
Shout out, I guess. Yeah, shout out, and a couple of drinks and a couple of pulls. Yes.
Like you said in the last episode, this is some things that people definitely will leave the relationship for.
Yeah, because you have to question, like, why am I staying? Like, what's keeping me here? Because we're not communicating. We're constantly fighting. None of us are sleeping. We have a child that's, like, totally in a state that he's going to constantly need someone's help. So it's like all these things, like, where do I draw the line? Where do I fit in this? And we're constantly arguing. I mean, I think we were arguing, like, almost every day over something that just didn't make any sense half the time.
The thing, we both, well, I know I can't speak for you, but I was always on the edge.
Oh yeah, I was too. I didn't know. It's funny because I'm working and I come home and I have my mindset like my home. When I first got married, I thought my home is my place to have my peace of mind. But it seemed like my home has become the battlefield as opposed to just working, commuting, and all that. Those outside elements, it's like, oh, okay, I have to have my guard on 24 hours a day because I didn't know what I was walking into. And not knowing what your day was like either. And I think that was one of the things I learned is like, what is her day like? How is she handling certain things? And it wasn't until now. So it was like 4 years later, now I'm starting to understand and get a clearer picture of what's going on. Because again, we learned that Aiden acts differently between, when he's with you than he is with me, which could also add stress. And that's why I said, hey, he's getting to you. Grab that pen, take a couple pulls and deal with him, because some children can take you emotionally to another level of like, okay, kid, you are asking for me to put some boxing gloves on, and we're gonna hash this out right now. Yeah. You're pushing the envelope.
Yeah, some kids, bro. I met a special needs mom, and she said to me, she lives in New York too, and she says to me, I feel like every day I'm gonna have a heart attack. And I'm like, me too.
The Me Too stages.
I said, me too. Some days it does feel like that. You're always on the edge.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think that's why when you call me and say, he's driving me nuts right now, he's destroying the place, he's throwing his toys around, I said, take a couple pulls, look at him, and have a conversation, because boys need structure. They need to be organized. They need structure. They need routine. And if you're not giving it to them, they're going to tear your place apart. But also, you have to be grounded. And again, having the cannabis available, especially, we don't do the flower. So just know that. We have a pen and we use it. And I swear it does help take the edge. It mellows you out, and you just say, okay, let me look at these things with some clarity. Okay, so what is it we need to do? What are the issues? How do we address them? And then take it from there without having these feelings like, oh, she should have done this. Oh, this family's... Without those things, I had a hard day, I'm going to bring it home with me. And, we do that. We tend to bring whatever external feelings that we have, and we project them. We literally project them. It's like, here, I'm going to dump this stuff all on you. Even though it's all in my mind, I'm going to dump it on you.
Well, I think that was very therapeutic.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean...
For me
too, because I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
But what I do appreciate about what we're doing is that we created a safe place so we can actually express ourselves and actually talk freely. We're not feeling anything.
Yeah, because you said some things, and I was like, oh, okay. Like, there's no animosity, which I think adds to the therapeutic value of this conversation. Yeah,
I think for the most part, from my end is that I looked at things where I think you're personally attacking me. Like, what you don't see the good things that I do? Don't you know what kind of person I am? So it's like that ego that just starts to talk and it's not listening, to what's going on. And that's what made it hard. And I think also there's some past things that I think we were still learning about each other that we never got to understand, how we work.
Yeah, definitely.
So
I think after this, but we're work in progress. We're still working on the sex life.
I think we're just working on it. Everything's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
As I say, it's another job. It's another full-time job.
Yeah, relationship for sure. So I think that is going to end this episode. For the next episode, I think we should go into mothers using cannabis to help and cope with postpartum depression.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's interesting. So I read some articles, and actually our cannabis doctor was in the article, and she's using it to help some moms.
That's great.
Yeah. So I think we could go into that. Sounds good?
That sounds great, because I know that it could help a lot of mothers out there. Postpartum, I did not know how serious it was until I found some people. I didn't realize that it is really, really interesting. So
very real.
I guess I'm looking forward to talking in our next episode, because there's a lot for me to learn as a man and a husband, a father. All
right. Put your listening cap on.
Yes. It's gonna be a long one.
All right.
All right, guys.
All right, ciao.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Love and Cannabis. I'm Nina.
I'm Osiris.
And we're the proud parents of Aiden.
Be strong
and stay empowered.